recognize that?
What is this?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to today's Unscripted podcast with your host Salman Butt, and we have a special guest, Reshad Strik. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
As you've probably already recognized, Reshad is from the very famous amongst Muslims and maybe even non-Muslims series Ertugrul. It's actually called Dirilis Ertugrul. And you'll be pleasantly surprised, some of you, to know that he's an Aussie. And this is our first Aussie that we've had? I think it's the first Aussie we've had on the show, so
wow.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm a big fan of Aussies, all the way from
Australia.
All the way from down under.
Okay.
Since I was a kid, I was deeply impacted by Crocodile Dundee. But I don't think I should have been watching that. I don't know what the age rating is on that. But then there was, of course, the late and great Steve Irwin.
Mm-hmm.
What a beauty. He was a real man, No offense, but he was. You know Steve Irwin, right?
No.
You don't know Steve Irwin? He's like your country's most prized export, other than Foster's. Steve Irwin, the real Crocodile Dundee. Steve Irwin.
All right. Yeah, yes. The guy that died of the stingray.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Tragically killed. Martyred, even some would say. But he was a real G.
Okay.
As we say around here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can jump on a crocodile and start wrestling him.
He's pretty legit. He was really legit, I think.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people that nowadays, they try and act like, big men and they couldn't catch a snake. They'd just run away.
Yeah.
But he would be like, there's a snake, I'm going to catch it, I'm going to wrap it around my neck, and then I'm going to ethically, release it back into the wild. So, Ertugrul.
Yeah. So
how did you, as an Aussie, end up firstly in Australia? Because I did a bit of background research on you, not in the creepy sense, but in the Wikipedia sense.
Okay.
Your father was from Bosnia, correct?
Yes.
And you somehow ended up in Australia with a wonderful Australian accent, and then you in this hit Turkish TV serial, and you've visited Hollywood as well. So I think you're the first Aussie and you're the first actor we've had on this program, I think.
I should get
Other than myself.
Other than yourself.
I mean, I was pretty good at drama.
Really?
In high school, yeah.
Did you do any plays or anything?
No. But
you were just
actually, yeah,
telling stories to people or something?
No. I mean, they did make. I grew up in an area where there's a lot of Asians, so they used to make us act out like Hindu, like Hanuman and Ganesh and that kind of stuff. But
and you were really good at that.
I was really good at that, but I don't know. But I mean, my drama teacher said, Salman, you got a career in drama. My music teacher, astaghfirullah, said, you got a career in music. My art teacher said, you got a career in art. The science teachers were like, get out of my class, you cheeky little bleep, bleep, bleep. And I ended up doing science all the way, A-levels, and
really?
Just to show them
that you can do it.
I can do it. But I enjoyed drama. How did you get into acting?
From a young age, my mother, I have dyslexia. And, alhamdulillah, so it basically means that I'm creative on right-sided brain, so it's like I'm using my right side a lot more. So I was very creative as a kid, and my mother encouraged me to just explore that and through drama. So I started doing a lot of drama classes outside of school, and that sort of after school I ended up getting to a university for acting, and later on doing some TV shows in Australia, going to Hollywood and doing a bunch of films there, and later on I ended up going to Bosnia, where my father's from, just for a vacation, and I met my wife, we got married, and I was going backwards and forwards between Los Angeles and Sarajevo, and ended up moving to Sarajevo.
MashaAllah. What do you do there now?
Now I have a cafe and a coffee roasters, and that's just like a side business, just like I enjoy that. I love good coffee, so I decided do that. My wife has a tourism agency, and she.
You say tourism, yeah?
Tourism, yeah.
Okay, not terrorism. Sounds very similar.
We're not hiring terrorists. If you want to know.
Not anymore. Yeah.
So my wife is working on the tourism side, and I still work with Turkey. How we ended up in Turkey was a bizarre thing as well. And a producer invited me to come out and play roles out there. I just thought it was ludicrous because I don't speak a word of Turkish, and I was like, why would you need me? Your population is 80 million people. You don't need me. And they really needed me, and they paid for me to learn Turkish for 1 year.
Really?
Yeah.
You learned Turkish just for
money.
Nasıl sen?
İyiyim. Siz nasılsınız?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned Turkish.
I don't know what that means, but
okay. So I learned Turkish.
Yeah.
And
impressive.
After it was quite impressive for me because I just thought I would never be able to learn another language in my life, and it takes me about like 3 months to like learn a small surah or something. It's like I'm like keep forgetting things.
You can probably tell that you're not a native speaker there, right? Or did you learn to that kind of level that you can trick some people?
Yeah, people get quite confused.
Really?
Yeah, they get quite confused because it just until I start a deep conversation, then they work me out, and they're like, "Well, you're not from here." Like put that accent on so heavy, like, and the isms, the little ticks and isms that they have, like Turks. So they're like when they don't like something, like So
okay, nice. So that was before Ertugrul, or that was for Ertugrul?
No, that was before Ertugrul. So
I mean, Ertugrul has been massive over here. I don't know about Australia.
It's
all like Muslims going crazy about it.
All over the world.
Do you think that was by design?
No. Okay, so there was with the ruling party in Turkey, they pretty much ordered to have some projects about identity and culture and history.
Yeah.
One of them was a modern Sherlock Holmes, like not modern, but like an Ottoman Sherlock Holmes, right? And the other one was Ertugrul, to preserve history, and preserve Deen as well, because it's quite an important thing that, before this TV show, if you wore hijab on television, you were known as a fool or an uneducated person or a cleaner, You only had hijab on Turkish television as a cleaner. So this broke a lot of barriers. And for that...
They had hatun to that list.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's powerful, we're always talking about how da'wah needs to be dynamic. And this has impacted many more people than perhaps, I don't want to say in a bad way, than, like an imam or a khatib or an Islamic speaker giving lectures. They can influence some people in some particular way, but this is like a massive, large scale thing. I think this is the kind of like, the printing press, what the printing press was maybe in the modern era. This is the, TV, film, that kind of stuff. I think this is as powerful, if not more powerful, when it comes to reaching masses and with a message. Because when I saw it, I've only seen the first series because I don't have enough time to watch.
Yes, it's quite long.
Really, really long. You need like a year for each series, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, I was hooked on the first episode. And that's because a sheikh actually told us to watch it. Sheikh is really weird. Sheikh really, we really love and respect. He's like, have you heard about this program? People are asking about it and whatever. And so I saw like the first episode and I was hooked. And I knew it was like, kind of pro-Muslim propaganda stuff. But I was like, we've been growing up being the baddies for so many decades. It's about time we've got one, who's the Muslim is a good guy. And
It's quite unbelievable, actually, that since, I don't know, forever, we haven't had any TV show supporting any role model or historical figure in our history. And I mean, we have such a rich culture, and we have such like rich history, amount of scholars, warriors, inventors, all kinds of stuff, but we've never actually made anything about these people to preserve or educate in another medium about these people, and it's quite unfortunate.
What do you think it is about Ertugrul though? Because
Listen, I think this straight up. I think it's
the program, not the guy.
He's a
Or
great
both,
guy.
maybe.
No, he's a great guy. What I think about the program is that it's just that in the Ummah there was such a drought for this. So it could have been in Vietnamese or any other language. I think the Ummah would have watched it.
Yeah.
Just because we're so hungry for it.
For subtitles.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Or dubbing.
Yeah. I think dubbing, some people say dubbing doesn't get the same effect, the drama.
Well, actually, half of the actors are dubbed
Really?
in Turkish.
Oh,
The
okay.
Turkish-speaking actors are dubbed in Turkish.
Nice. Why is that?
Just because
They screwed up the lines.
it's easy to screw up the lines because they're shooting one episode a week.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So basically making one film in a week.
So each original episode is like 2.5 hours something, right?
Each episode is like between 1 hour and 1 hour and 45 minutes.
Ah, okay. Because on Netflix, I heard they split them up.
Yeah, Netflix have a system, and they like to, go by their system. So they're like, oh no, we do things like this. So the Turks had to rearrange everything and split every episode up into 2 or 3 or something.
So, how many people do you reckon? Do they have stats? How many people it's reached? Have you ever heard that?
I don't have that stat, but I know about a year ago or a year and a half ago, they sold to 70 countries, and that was then. So I mean, it's
So a
just
series.
Yeah. So it's like growing and growing and growing.
Nice. That's power, man. I mean, do you think it's presumably sparked off other similar projects, right, in Turkey and elsewhere? Do you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Some other people tried to do things, but I don't think they had the same need as the producer. And you can tell when you watch that stuff. There's a couple of films that came out, and it's like to do with Sultan Fatih's right hand man or something like that. But the guys, they look like they got all makeup on, and they look like they just look, but like
they're not proper
Braveheart.
Steve Irwins.
No, it's not just that. It's they look like they're barbaric, like more than they should. So they're not serving, not serving the Muslim Ummah at all. They're not serving like
good
a role
role
model.
models.
Yeah. So it's quite clear when you see that. You're like, it's not right.
So the producer, you mentioned his niyat, his intention. You know him quite well, and about his background and his desire for the series.
Yeah, yeah. He was pretty on point, right, with his niyat and his intention, and mashallah. And it's not easy for him. It's really because he's surrounded by a
Secularist,
secular sector, and for him to accomplish what he's accomplished, it's mashallah. No other TV show has done that.
Mashallah. Are you sad
What?
Are you sad that you're not part of it anymore? I don't want to release any spoilers.
I'm not sad. It's yeah.
Season 1, by the way.
Pardon?
It's season 1. You disappear in season 1.
Yeah, that's right. Oh,
Yeah.
well, depends.
Spoiler alert. You're
So-
obviously not broken up about it. Not bitter at all.
I guess
They killed off your character.
I die. Unfortunately, I die. I'm murdered.
Shaheed,
Shaheed, yeah.
inshallah.
Jannah,
Yeah,
inshallah. Jannah.
You'll see Omar there.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah, I'll meet him in Jannah, inshallah.
Maybe even Ibn Arabi too.
I don't know about that.
I mean, a lot of kind of critics of Ibn Arabi have become fans because of this program, because they're like, we heard all this weird stuff about Ibn Arabi, but I've seen enough Ertugrul to know that he's a good guy generally. Even though historically there's probably not that much. Someone said there's only like a few pages in history books actually about Ertugrul Ghazi, and a lot of it is kind of
It's a TV show.
understandable
It's a TV
drama,
show,
yeah.
It's like
you need to add some spice in there.
absolutely.
Not like a History Channel thing or Discovery Channel thing like with Steve Owen.
No, he was real.
Yeah.
He was like
He was-
legit.
Yeah, mashallah. We need more people like him, and Ertugrul as well. Yeah.
Muslim Steve Irwin's,
yeah, Steve Irwin.
Amazing.
Mashallah. So tell us about your stint with Hollywood then, because I saw the clip of you in the Dean show with Eddie. You were talking about stuff in Hollywood.
Yeah. So Los Angeles, Hollywood. is a place where you can dreams come true, right? All the opportunities.
Haram dreams.
Haram dreams could be halal. Depends.
Halal ones too.
Depends. It depends where you go, what you do, and how much you want to sell yourself, basically. However, I've seen things happen there that like really quick. Unfortunately for me, I had like a certain amount of principles that lines I didn't want to cross in terms of Islam. A lot to do with playing a leading man in every film. You have a kissing or something like that, and it's like it's almost impossible. So if you want to be there, you have to do that.
Even if you're not acting. It's a blessing and a curse, so I feel for you.
I don't know about that. Anyway, so Hollywood is an amazing place. It's such a synergy. It's such a great place for work, for opportunities and that. However, I just found myself in a hole there, and I was doing films. I was getting a lot of offers, but I just didn't feel that, you know, my life was going where I wanted it to go, even though I was getting famous and things like that, and great things were happening in terms of ego and that, and this dunya. But I was like, you know what, I need to get married, and I was 28. I was like, I should have been married by now. I'm going to get married young, so I ended up going to Bosnia, and that kind of changed my life.
Inshallah. So how, let's rewind it back a bit, a few decades. How did you end up in Australia from Bosnian extraction?
My father migrated in something like 1965 to Australia.
Is that that wasn't because of the war, that was before the war, right?
Yeah, that was like after Second World War. But there was like a huge stress of communism at that time, because the partisans won the war against the Bosnians who were fighting with the Nazis, but we were like protecting Jews and all that sort of stuff, because Bosnians are very, very close with Jews, Muslims. And so after the communism, during communism, a lot of practicing Muslims would go missing. And there was all kinds of crazy stories about that, how to be a Muslim, it's basically just like West China right now.
Yeah.
You know? So my father and his mother ended up migrating to Australia, met my mother. My mother is Australian, like 7th generation Australian. And they got married, had 4 boys. My mother became Muslim. She started going to like madrasa and that sort of stuff on weekends, and she educated our whole family. She was like the rock of the family, mashallah. And
she's still with you?
Yeah.
Mashallah, it's a blessing.
She's in Sydney with my other 3 brothers.
What was she before she converted?
Catholic.
They're very religious normally, aren't they?
Catholics,
but generally. So a lot of I know a lot of Catholics who became Muslim, and even even in some of the learned people with regards to their scripture. I remember one brother. He was his name's Chris. He converted, and he was at a job somewhere, and he was having a conversation with another guy, and he accidentally kind of said inshallah or something. He didn't know the guy didn't know he was Muslim. He's like, what did you say? He said, I said inshallah, it means blah blah blah, and it's giving the hospital, yeah, I'm Muslim, whatever. And then the guy was like, no, don't worry, I'm Muslim too. He's like, I'm from, I forgot which South American country.
Venezuela.
I don't know. He said, I was like really brought up as kind of strict Catholic. My grandmother, like very knowledgeable in our scripture. Before I left my city, she said, she's like Catholic and knowledgeable in their scripture. She said, my son, when you leave this place and you go to across the world, look for the followers of the new prophet, the last prophet, because he was supposed to come, and when he arrived in England, he started researching and he came across these Muslims, and alhamdulillah, he was guided. But these people, so they, I don't know about kind of Protestants and that kind of, but some Catholics at least, they have still the signs in their scriptures that they're using, and waiting for or expecting a prophet to come after Isa alayhi salam. So a lot of them are ripe for dawah.
Mm.
How's the dawah scene in Australia generally?
It's
kind of
quite active,
Yeah.
very active.
yeah? mashallah.
It's really interesting. Australia's like become basically a majority atheist country, pretty similar to the rest of the world. But it's quite funny that Muslims are always noticed. I think that's because they're active, or so active. So like everyone's noticing, oh, Muslims are doing something. It's just because we're actually practicing our religion, and I think it would be.
What's the percentage there? Muslims, you know?
It's about 3%.
3%.
Maybe 3, 4. 3, 4.
Oh, I think in UK we're 5%. That was as of 2011.
What about in London?
London is like 120%.
I think London's
If you
like
follow some of the right-wing, far-right websites or whatever, take a Londonistan, they call it.
Londonistan.
Yeah. It's they say it's something like 1 out of every 8 babies born is a Muslim. Is that right? 1 out of 8 or 1 in 7 or something like that.
So we got
Babies.
to get it to 1 in every 4, yeah?
Mashallah.
Freak
But,
out. They're going to shut down your podcast.
One day. I'm not saying to reduce everyone else's, we're saying to increase ours, you know.
Yeah.
No one else is having kids anymore. It's like...
No, kids are great. Kids are good.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, kids are,
You got kids?
yeah, I've got 3 kids.
Mashallah.
3
Same
kids.
here. We have so much in common.
Really? You got 3
Yeah.
kids?
Yeah, 3 boys.
3 boys. No, I got 2 girls and a boy. How old?
5, 7, 9.
5, 7,
7
9.
and 9.
Okay. Yeah, so they're going to school.
They homeschool, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even though we're not in London, technically, we live in Slough now. I was born and raised in West London.
Okay.
But yeah, we homeschool. Homeschooling is a big thing here.
Yeah.
We've got a community there in Slough and West London as well.
Great.
I don't know.
So your kids have a lot of time on their hands. Yeah.
They don't watch Ertugrul yet. I wanted them to. But once they get old enough to deal with all the blood and gory and stuff, I would like for them to watch, just to get that Muslim kind of hero role model kind of thing. But I don't think they have the same need for it as maybe general kids do, because they don't watch that much. I mean, a lot of the TV programs and stuff now, they're more representative. They see brown faces and Muslims and that kind of stuff in normal, not just playing the terrorist, but just playing the normal characters and stuff.
Well, I think that's a quite interesting subject to talk about, actually. Modern day films and themes and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty much all the same. Everything's pretty much the same, and especially with all these Marvel stuff and all that.
Yeah.
It's like the ideology of it all, and it's quite scary. And
Really?
it's quite scary if you go into it not knowing, because these people just believe in that stuff. They actually go to sleep at night thinking about, oh, there's a Wolverine and stuff like that. They're like thinking, oh, and
But it was
they're spending so much energy and brain cells thinking about that sort of stuff. You know,
but it was based on a real character, right?
Wolverine.
Like historically,
Historically,
I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm not that thick.
I was about to break it down for you.
But Professor X was.
Who? Professor X? I didn't watch that much. I think I watched the first Wolverine.
Assalamualaikum guys, sorry to butt in, but if you're enjoying this podcast, please head over to islam20c.com/donate to help us make more. And if you're not enjoying it, head over anyway and help us make better ones. My kids, alhamdulillah, they don't have the same need in terms of, because when I grew up, I just saw Muslims playing the terrorist or maybe the shopkeeper or something, but it wasn't as it's not as just white. All the goodies are white and the baddies are kind of dark skinned. That was like really in everything when I was growing up. Even Crocodile Dundee we were joking about earlier. That scene where he's like, "That's not a knife. This is a knife." That was the kind of white savior of the white woman, and all the baddies were black then.
Yeah.
So I mean,
black Americans though.
Like yeah.
Because the Australians were Aboriginal.
Yeah.
So they were the good guys.
Yeah. So growing up in Australia, did you have what kind of stuff did you watch? What kind of things affected you? Maybe had an impact on you, in terms of film or drama or something like that?
We used to watch a lot of sport, a lot of cricket. I used to watch a lot of cricket. My brothers, I met the whole Pakistani cricket team, West Indies cricket team, all the cricket teams I met when I was a kid, like standing there getting their signatures and the autographs and that. Sport.
Did you meet Imran Khan?
Yeah, I met him.
Really?
2 or 3 times. Adelaide Oval. Almost every year they come.
What a beauty.
Amazing back then. He was amazing. Really, really.
They used to, I don't know if it's like just fanboys or whatever, but they say that he used to be the only one who, when he was in the UK, I think Cambridge or Oxford or something, he used to be the only one who would pray and that kind of stuff and wouldn't drink alcohol and had some principles and stuff.
MashaAllah.
I don't know if that's just his fans talking, but it seems to be a really...
But we seem to be spreading that out
really
there, supporting that idea, because that's...
It's a good idea.
It's
anyway.
a good idea, MashaAllah.
He was, Dr. Salman was named after the other Pakistani cricket captain. Salman Butt.
No, when you Google Salman Butt, i.e. my name, you get kind of, there's a disgraced Pakistani cricketer, as you might know if you still follow it, who was kind of in prison for match fixing and stuff.
Yeah, right on. I remember that.
Yeah. So if you Google my name, that's where you'll find, which is kind of good because, if someone's snooping around, they'll just find info about that guy.
Okay.
Any haters out there. Yeah, so you watched a lot of sport. What kind of stuff what kind of film did you watch?
All kinds of films. I was...
Were you impacted?
I think the main thing that really touched me was Star Wars and the message, the message, and both of those when I was 4 years old, I'd be coming home at 4, and my brothers would go to school, and I'd be just watching that all day, like one or the other, and like the Star Wars was like a really bad version of recording on VHS. It's like on long play VHS, and like we missed like the first I don't know 15 minutes of it, and then it started. So I used to watch that. I really remember watching that. And then the message, I was always into the message, and because my middle name is Hamza, and I think my mother named me Reshad Hamza Strik because she watched the message. And actually, when she first watched it in cinema before she married my father, she was really confused. She was like, why are these Muslims killing Muslims? Like, she just thought all Arabs were the same. She was like, what are these Muslims? So my father had to like try to explain it. I don't think he did a good job, but later on, my mum, she loved that film. I mean,
I love that. That was a powerful film, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a series as well, Omar series.
I love that.
By NBC,
I watched that.
That's powerful as well, yeah.
That was beautiful. That was such a beautiful series.
I think that was made in close consultation with scholars as well to keep it accurate historically and stuff.
I think anything religious will be. I don't think Dirilis was made with scholars, but
the thing that with the Sahaba is the problem with portraying them is, I know some people were saying that when they saw the message, then they saw Anthony Quinn doing other stuff. It was like messed with their heads a bit. So with the guy who played Umar radiallahu anh in Umar series, I think they had contractually that you can't play anyone else for X number of years. I heard this. You heard that? Yeah, for a few years you can't play anyone else because, I don't know, it's part of the image of the haiba, the aura of the character or something.
Interesting.
And that's an interesting thing. But that's a bit more recent though. So what kind of down the message, Star Wars? What kind of other stuff did you see?
All kinds of films. A lot of
other than
indie films.
Steve Irwin. You didn't really know much about him
until today. So a lot of indie films, a lot of festival films. A lot of listen. I was never really into like fantasy, like I mentioned before, X-Men and all that Marvel stuff, because it's just false. It's just this the philosophy of those stories. It's all just false. So basically, just saying that Zeus is here and then boom, it's just the same sort of stuff. It's not real, and I just.
Ouch.
I'm sorry, guys, but I'm more.
It's not real.
I'm more into.
You must hate WWF and WWE and all that.
No, that's real, man.
Wrestling's not fake.
Yeah, I've never watched that stuff in my life.
My dad used to not let me watch that. He was an actual wrestler in real life,
Really?
He was, rahimahullah, he was like a champion of Punjab back in the day.
Really?
In freestyle wrestling. So he was like really anti this kind of. He's like, these guys are just actors. How dare you watch that? I was like, okay.
Nice work.
Yeah, so,
Did he teach you anything?
no. He was like, this is. I think he made a promise to our mum back in the day.
Oh, so your mum.
She was like, no blood sports.
Right.
He was like, okay, rahimahullah. Yeah, so
I basically once I started university, I started really getting into festival films, like watching festival films. So what that means, it means like films that are made with low budgets, films that are made to that have something to say, that are about certain topics, and I think that's the kind of thing that I'm drawn to. I love it when a film says something.
Are you interested in continuing that acting and maybe being involved in?
I'm developing something at the
like
moment. I'm still working. I have my own TV show in Turkey.
Oh, okay, currently.
Currently, I just came back. I just came back from the Philippines. It's quite similar to Steve Irwin. I don't know why, but it's actually quite similar. That's why I have the hat. I wear the hat, and if you look it up on Instagram or
it's similar to.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. It's about so.
So you're contractually obliged to pretend to not know who Steve Irwin was.
Steve Irwin. I was like, so it's called A New Member of the Family, and like so the government television they come up with these ideas, brainstorm, and they wanted a family documentary. They wanted to reunite families in Turkey to make it stronger. Family unit stronger, because you have strong families, you have strong societies, strong country. Turkish mentality, mashallah. So they asked me if I wanted to play in this TV show about a man that goes and joins a family. The family makes absolutely no money, but have the most craziest jobs in the world. From like honey hunting in the Himalayas to like diving for pearls to like anything that's like crazy, like bullfighting, bull whatever, like just these jobs that they have to. So I've pretty much traveled all around the world in the last year. It's been amazing.
And it's a documentary, real life, basically.
It's basically, so I'll eat the way the family eats, like with my hands, everything. I eat with them, I cook with them, I sleep with them in their house. I do everything with them. Whatever they're doing, I'm doing.
Nice.
So
where have you been?
First episode, we started in Nepal. We went up the Himalayas. There was one Hindu family there. And then we went to Indonesia. We ended up going through majority of the islands of Indonesia, Sumatra.
Nice.
We were in Sulawesi, or in Java. And then we ended up going to Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia. We went to Bosnia, we went to Turkey, we went to Morocco. And next, we are going to Ethiopia.
MashaAllah.
So it's in
where do you get time spend with your own family then?
My wife's going to kill me. So I had enough. She's like,
you're spending time with everyone else's family except yours.
My daughter got really jealous when I started sending photos. I was like, yeah, this is my sister. She was like, what? She was like, I'm not going to talk to you.
Oh, man. So they give you enough breaks in between, right?
Yeah, no, it's quite scattered. The schedule is quite scattered through the year.
Nice.
So that's a blessing. It allows me to run my coffee shop and roastery and see my family and work on other projects on the side.
It's all about quality time, I guess, spending with your family.
Yeah, my wife just makes me do everything when I'm there.
I mean, there's some scholars, I remember some scholars of Seerah, they did a calculation how long the Prophet ﷺ was in each of his wives' houses, like per month. They kind of subtracted all the kind of campaigns and the battles and that kind of stuff and traveling. And they said each wife per month he spent like 2.5 days on average, or 2.5 nights. But they didn't complain because it was like quality time when you're spending. So it's not about just kind of spending time.
So that's like 20 days away or something.
Yeah.
If you have 4 wives, technically speaking, if you had 4 wives,
if
you had 4 wives,
how many you got? one public one. Alhamdulillah. But it's about quality time. So when you're there, it's not just kind of just sitting there watching TV, but might be, but quality time watching together, or spending time with the kids together, kind of making memories and stuff with the kids.
Actually, I think there's also a hadith that you divide your day in three, like a third for work, a third for Islam, a third for family.
Okay, I've heard that. Shana.
Maybe it's hadith, maybe it's not hadith. Don't quote me. Some sheikh's going to be scholarly, this guy.
Some sheikh told me. Yeah. So we can Google it. Pardon?
Ibn Arabi's
Ibn Arabi said, told you.
Ibn Arabi
He came
told
to you
me
in a dream and
no, it was actually just off camera. He was just telling me that stuff.
his alarm went off. Oh, time for Islam.
It's 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock. So how's the you're based in Bosnia, right? So one of the brothers from IERA, IERA, they're involved in dawah like all across the world, mashallah. And they said that Bosnia is ripe for dawah. Like I've heard also that there's a lot of political kind of tensions brewing under the surface. I met some MPs in Muslim members of parliament from Bosnia once at this call. I met the first hijabi MP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Bosnia.
I think she's from Visico.
I don't know where she's from. Her name's Samra.
Okay.
Yeah, we were at this training course. Not that kind of training, but different time. Just put that out there. But yeah, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of I think khair in Bosnia. I think they're trying to increase their tourism as well. But they were saying that the sister was saying that there's a lot of tensions brewing under the surface.
So there's always going to be tensions there because Bosnians, like during the split up of the 90s war of former Yugoslavia, Bosnians were so welcoming by saying, hey, this is all our country, when technically they should have been just ethnic cleansing like the other countries were, just killing all Muslims and all that. We should have been doing that. I'm sorry, but it's just we don't have a country now because we were so welcoming. We're like, oh, no, come, you're part of us. And then they all just committed genocide and all that. And in the end, we don't really have an identity. We don't have a flag. We don't have a national anthem. We don't have anything. It's like it's quite frustrating. Although we're the majority of the population, by far, by like I think we're about 60%.
And are all Bosnians Muslims?
Yeah. So if you say you're Bosnian, that means you are Muslim because the Catholics and Orthodox in Bosnia they're so nationalist that they're not even on their own deen. They're so nationalist that they say that they're Serbians or Croatians, although they're born and bred and their grandfathers are born and bred in Bosnia. It's like they are Bosnians, but it's just the confusion of the war. Why is Bosnia a problem in Europe? Because it's the only Muslim state. It is actually a Muslim country. If you think about it, technically it's not, but
Muslim majority.
But yeah, we are a Muslim country, and we have been for 500 years since Sultan Fatih came, and it's full of natural resources. The wood industry there is huge. A lot of wood, a lot of forestry. We have a lot of water, so it's quite a big deal.
It used to be called the Princess of the Ottoman Khilafah or something, isn't it? Prince of the Ummah, because of the natural beauty and stuff there.
Of the people?
No.
I've never heard that in my life. I've never heard that. I know that Sarajevo was dubbed as the European Jerusalem because you have a synagogue, masjid, churches, everything is within 100 meters from each other, and everyone was living in coexistence with each other, and that was a remarkable proof of coexistence in modern day, and in the last 500 years we were fine.
I mean, there's this guy Douglas Murray, it's a really nasty kind of piece of work, neocon, and he was like, in order to reduce terrorism in Europe, you need to reduce the number of Muslims. Less Islam is less terrorism. And Bosnia is one of the case studies where you're saying that there's actually loads of countries where there's a sizable, proportion of Muslims, Bosnia is one of them, and Macedonia and these types of places where in Eastern kind of, even in Eastern Europe, there's a lot of Islam, and it has been for hundreds of years. And it's they're not like immigrants or anything. They're natural, native Muslims for centuries. We're going to be speaking to another brother who's kind of inshallah, his speciality is the history of Muslims in Europe. Dr. Steph, I forgot his surname. Steph Chris, not Chris, I don't know. He's a Greek convert, but his work is on the history of Muslims in Europe, and it's very surprising. For some people, I've spoken to him a bit.
Yeah, I think
been around
also
for a long time.
Also, I'd like to add on to that is that it's quite Ali Izetbegovic, our former our past president, who was in for the liberating of the Republic of Bosnia. He was a remarkable scholar. He was a huge intellect, a philosopher. He did amazing things about the modern Muslim in Europe. He wrote many books and texts and all that. He went to jail for being a Muslim during communism. Mashallah, a Mubarak person. And what he left us kind of in a bad situation, only because it's pretty hard being that David and Goliath against the West, a small Muslim nation inside of Europe. Bosnia was dubbed as like a stain in Europe. They just wanted to wipe us out. And what's also interesting is that we're a natural Muslim country, as you said. We're naturally like.
Assalamu alaikum guys, me again, reminding you to head over to islam21c.com/donate to keep the lights on Islam 21c. We pride ourselves on being independent and being funded by the grassroots community. I think the problem is that for centuries Muslims and Islam has been the other that has was required for a European identity to be carved out. Professor Joseph Massad has a very interesting book, Islam in Liberalism, where he charts historically the kind of the need for the Muslim, the Mohammedan, the infidel, and the various kind of the Moriscos, the various kind of terms used historically, the need for that other to define the boundary between Europe and Islam. So without Islam, without Muhammad, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there would be no Charlemagne. Without this, there would be no that. So there's always been that. The Islam and Muslims have been kind of the placeholder for European insecurities to be projected and hung there. So when you have a nation which is fully European, I mean, kind of historically and ethnically Caucasian, fully white and fully Islamic,
it's quite weird.
It's like it goes against that that construct, that constructed Europeanness. So it's understandable why it would be a kind of an annoyance to some people. But what's the plan to kind of address that in terms of to construct a new model of Europeanness that embraces its ethnicity and embraces its Islam as well?
It's pretty deep. So the problem with Bosnians as well is that they are still stuck in a communist mentality. Communism still rules the Bosnians. It doesn't rule the Serbians or the Croatians, but it still rules the Bosnians. The Bosnians.
How long was the communists? Were the communists in power there?
It's like on and off for 85 years.
Yeah, so that's multi-generational.
Yeah,
that's how you wipe out someone's, the epistemicide. Wipe out the episteme.
I don't know.
Because kind of genocide is for the bodies.
Yeah.
Epistemicide is kind of like for the mind and knowledge and history and removing that. So how are they affected by this still? What are you going to say?
Well, it's just like mentality of things where people say it's just the structure of society is still almost living from communism. They're still living with the communist mentality. Like they expect things. People expect things. It's like just going off the subject a little bit onto Bosnia, but they really are still stuck in that mentality. Like they still think, communism was much better. Like older generation, they'll say, communism was much better. Everything was okay there. Everyone had a job. Everyone was. They don't realize that they were being controlled and there was no freedom and you couldn't go and make.
How is it not affected by this? How has it not affected the Serbs? as much? How's their mentality different?
The Serbs just they're free. They do whatever they want. It's interesting because a lot of people come to Bosnia to try and do work with them, but they end up doing work with Serbs. I mean, you look at the Emiratis as an example. You know, the Emiratis I'm sure they would love to do business with Bosnia, you know, but they do it with the Serbs. So it's interesting. Serbs, they just moved on quicker, you know. They just moved on to their own identity a lot quicker, where Bosnians were confused. I believe that. I really believe that Bosnians really got when the war was starting, they was like trying to figure out. No, they didn't realize that
there's always this
genocide is coming. You know, they didn't. They're like, no, we still can work it out. You know, we like you. You like us.
There's always this kind of trade-off you have to make between stability. Things aren't good, but you know this is predictable. There's order, and what could be if you try and make things better. So there's always, I mean, generally people from an older generation, they'll, especially if they've seen war, they've seen violence and stuff, they're going to be less likely to perhaps want change than the younger generation. That's what, the whole Arab Spring, it's done by the youth. And one thing they said about Algeria, for example, is why Algeria didn't take part of in the Arab Spring, was because memory of war and genocide was still fresh in their minds.
Yes.
And somebody who's been repressed and oppressed and subjugated for so long, you need time for them to, it doesn't sound nice, but to be replaced by a younger generation who's been raised in freedom. And this is one of the wisdoms they mentioned, some of the scholars mentioned, about when Musa alayhi salam liberated Bani Israel, and he's leading them away from Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's chasing them, and you can see some of the stuff they're saying to Musa. They're like, oh, look, there's a sea now. Oh, Musa, we were better back there. Oh, Musa, we're going to be destroyed. We're either going to drown or Pharaoh's going to catch us. And they had that kind of subjugated mentality. And even when they were saved from Fir'aun, their mentality looked through the Quran. They're like, you and your Lord go and fight. We're not going to fight those people. We're not going to enter Al-Quds, Jerusalem. And they were made to wander 40 years in the desert. And some scholars said one of the wisdoms for this was that the subjugated people, they were to die out, and the younger generation who grew up in, not in poverty, but not in subjugation, under tyranny, they were able to then, go and fight and go to Jerusalem and so forth. And that was one of the wisdoms Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where did Musa alayhi salam grow up? He didn't grow up mixed with Bani Israel fully. He grew up in the palace of Fir'aun. With a kind of free leadership mentality, rubbing shoulders with, kings and that kind of stuff. So that has a deep impact on a person's tarbiyah, and that's something I'm trying to conscious of with my own kids as well. And we should be conscious with our kids, that are they absorbing a victim kind of, or a defeated mentality when they're growing up. And that's one of the reasons I liked to bring up to Ertugrul, that this is a Muslim guy. He's proud of Islam. He's showing that you can live Islam. You can be a victorious person in this dunya as well as being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just giving our kids these messages is more important than just giving them an explicit lesson. Do this, do that, do that. If they're just absorbing like a victorious mindset, a leadership mentality, that Allah put you here for leading mankind. For looking after the earth. You're the steward, you're the khulafa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. This is I think
what going back to Ertugrul on that note, young kids these days, after watching so many Muslims being oppressed on television, and that's so many like just straight degenerate bad stuff where we are always down, negative, and finally seeing that, I mean, it must really uplift the kid on that, as leadership, as you said, as a role model, to go get educated, to go further yourself, to go and reach the stars. I think that's amazing. I think that's
so. It's sad that in Bosnia the Muslims feel still that they're kind of
But you have to
Still
also
suffering
you have to
from the
understand they went through
communism.
they went through communism. They went through a war.
Yeah.
You can't blame them.
Of course. Yeah.
Then after the war, there's the Dayton the Dayton Treaty, and that's not in favor of really the Bosnians.
Can you explain what that is?
That's basically the Bosnians were, after 3.5 years of being bombed by the West,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the support under the eyes of the West, I should say, under the eyes of the West, under the eyes of the UN, rape, genocide, siege, the longest siege in modern history after World War II, the longest siege probably in history on a city, 3.5 years a siege in Europe.
Largest genocides in Europe since the Holocaust.
Yes, and everyone was watching that, so they said, okay, we have to stop Bosnia, but Bosnia started winning the war. And if Bosnia starts winning the war, what's going to happen?
Mm.
You're going to have a Muslim state. You should have seen us. We were so pumped by the end of the war. You know, everyone was like, Allahu Akbar, Allah. We were all like practicing Muslims, and we were all like into it. And through Allah's rahmah, we started winning the war. So, in a nutshell, America called, said, stop the war or we bomb you both. And the Serbs basically were running at that stage. And then they made this crazy deal that Serbia has like a state inside of Bosnia, and Bosnia has a state, but we're going to call it all Bosnia-Herzegovina. And you're not going to have their flag, we're going to have a different flag. But we accept that different flag, but the Serbs don't accept that flag. So it's just so much like, it's not fair.
Just tensions as well.
It's not fair. So these
surface.
Bosnians have to live under that, you know, after losing a father, losing an uncle, losing a child. They have to live under that. Well, some of them lost their whole family, you know. They have to live under that. So you can't really blame them that they're thinking about, oh, Yugoslavian communism was so good, you know. Like we were eating nothing and living in a house that they gave us, and we'd go to work and smoke cigarettes and drink coffee all day. And it's basically the life for them.
Smart. So do you know any of the dawah efforts going on in Bosnia to try and uplift the people there? Maybe I would say tarbiyah is more important in that scale than just dawah to non-Muslims, for example.
It's really not like here, and I think because of the imams or.
By here, do you mean East London?
East London is amazing. East London is like I feel like I'm in like another realm here because everything's like an Islamic city.
I think that's the most anyone's ever praised East London.
Really, it's like an Islamic city.
We're West Londoners, so we don't take kindly to praise of East London that way. But I mean, comparatively, mashallah, there's a lot of Muslims here.
Alhamdulillah, I mean,
institutions and stuff, Muslim schools, colleges. There's a Muslim college down the road. Alhamdulillah, East London Mosque just there. Halal meat everywhere. Halal restaurants everywhere. It's like it's amazing. Yeah. It's really amazing. So how is it? What are you saying? It's not like here. How is it different then?
So it just like because of that coming through communism, the ideas that you guys have that you bring that also in Australia, same as here. You know, the people are active. See, the Islamic community in Bosnia, they're like an umbrella of everything. If you're going to pay your zakat, it's all controlled under them. It's basically communism. Basically, it's like communism, Islam. And I understand that as well. I understand that it does have its positives, that it does have a system, like its Ottoman system that they're controlling everything because of communism came that the Islamic community took all their properties and all that, and they formed like this committee.
Commune.
So so they can control their stuff before communism takes it. But unfortunately, there's no think tanks like there's no outclasses and there's no classes and things like that are like.
Is that because of repression, or could you start and open up a center there, dawah center, start doing things there? Or?
I think the Islamic community would come knocking on my door or something.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like that.
Wow. So you need more maybe soft power.
Yeah.
Kind of subtle forms of influencing people in a positive way, I guess.
I tell you this. I tell you one amazing thing for the Bosnians, and also I think it would benefit the English Muslims, would be visits, vice versa. For I believe that if Bosnians see what you guys have here, they would be like, wow. They'd be so amazed with that. You know, it's just the activity that you have the progression that the things that you've accomplished here is phenomenal.
Well, I don't mean to brag, but
mashallah, really phenomenal. And so, and
it's all like the elder generations. They put the foundations down. Alhamdulillah.
Mashallah. And I also believe that the English Muslims, you guys, I really think that you guys would benefit seeing the Bosnians and the old structures and all the old, libraries and masjids and madrasas. Some of the madrasas there are 500 years old.
Wow. Mashallah. How does one go about booking a trip to Bosnia? Do you know anyone involved in the tourism business?
You can take my wife's number. Listen, there are a lot of agencies working on that at the moment. You have Fly Bosnia doing direct flights. And
is that going to actually help the local economy there and kind of stuff? Or
absolutely.
Is it kind of foreigners coming and exploiting?
Well, if you think about it, it's the social economy of the Bosnians.
Coffee shops and stuff.
Restaurants, hotels, all that sort of stuff. It's helping our economy. It's one thing that's really helping us to succeed, and the development of tourism has taken off. I mean, the Khalijis are coming non-stop for the last 4 years. And it's before, if you go 4 years ago in Bosnia, if you saw someone walking around with niqab, they'll be freaked out. They don't know how to take it. They're like, "Wow, this niqab!" And they talk about it all day. They'll be like on TV. They'll be talking about why is the niqab here. But now, because the Khalijis are coming, it's like it's the norm. They digested it.
Okay,
which is good. So, breaking these barriers for the mentality of the communist mentality of Bosnians, Muslim Bosnians. It's just, I think about just visiting, discussing, meeting, because I believe that Bosnians, when they see brothers with beards, they kind of freak out a little bit. Although now beards are really hipster and cool. Yeah. But when they see do
you have hipsters in Bosnia?
We do. They wear tight pants and that stuff. It's a bit annoying.
What about the trousers?
Trousers are tight too.
But pants are in England we call pants the stuff you wear under your trousers.
Oh, they're underwear.
Yeah, underwear.
So that's pants.
Yeah. So pants are underwear.
Your pants are underwear.
Yeah. So those are trousers.
Oh, these are trousers.
Yeah.
All right, on.
Just be careful.
Sorry, guys.
If you're going around saying describing someone else's pants, then it might come across as a bit
weird.
Dodgy here.
Weird, not dodgy. Weird.
It's better than Sheikh Kamal al-Makki. He was describing some brothers as buff. I mean, he's an American, so buff there means kind of muscles and muscly and stuff. Buff here means attractive.
Attractive.
Yeah, so don't call anyone buff.
Especially other guys.
So what's the future for you then in terms of the arts? You got this program running in Turkey. It sounds very interesting. But do you have any ideas for something with your own creative control? Maybe?
So I'm developing something that's similar to Ertugrul at the moment. Nice. A TV show. It won't be
Claudius's revenge.
Yeah, it's Claudius
comes back from the dead.
I actually thought about this. Maybe they can call me up. I was waiting for a call. Maybe they'll call me up and say, you know what, you're going to play Claudius' brother, revenging it, and then he also becomes Muslim. I was thinking about that, but it didn't happen. They didn't call me.
There. Don't worry.
Just dreaming.
You can do your own stuff. You don't need them.
No, I don't need them. They need me. I really, since a young age, I was very into cinema and being an actor and filmmaking, and that I always had that hedef, that objective that I wanted to make.
Assalamu alaikum guys, last reminder I promise. Head over to islam21c.com/donate to help this movement get to the next level. So we have genuine, high quality media articulating Islam in the 21st century and developing confident Muslims impacting the world for the better. Did you say Hedef?
Hedef, yeah, wow. Islamic content.
Cool. Is that a thing in Turkey?
That's Turkish and Arabic.
Oh, okay.
And Urdu?
Hedef means goal. I've never heard it in Urdu, but
you know Urdu?
I've never heard it kind of mixed in English as an idiom or something. Nice one.
Okay, so
it's gone into my long-term.
Hedef. It's Arabic, isn't it?
Yeah, Hedef.
So
goal, I mean goal basically, obviously.
Goal. My goal.
Yeah.
My objective goal. where I'm going. Yeah, target. Head off target. So I always wanted to make content.
Mahmoud's got a few, I think, scripts and treatments already. He's a filmmaker as well.
We'll show you some.
Okay.
Yeah, he's made a few films, mashallah.
Okay.
So maybe you can.
I'd love.
And
to
if you need like a lead character,
you're it.
just
You're it.
I was good at drama.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Your science teachers told us that. They said, like, you're terrible at science, you're great at drama.
Time to prove the drama teachers right now. So what ideas you have? So another Ertugrul-like series.
There's a lot of ideas, but there's one right now I'm working on. Salahuddin Ayyubi. I just think in the English language for the rest of the world.
The Kingdom of Heaven from the other perspective.
It's not really okay. So it's not really Kingdom of Heaven. It's more so like younger Salahuddin, younger, like how he got into the military.
Origin story.
Yeah, no, just how he came about. You know,
he was bitten by a radioactive spider
and just like started flying around, killing crusaders and that. So.
Nice, that's a good idea.
That's not true, guys.
Well, some people say, do you think series are more? Would you prefer series rather than feature film, or what do you think is more powerful or impactful?
I just believe that series are the way to go now. Like TV is everything, because everyone treats a film or a series the same. They're going to watch it on their own TV at the end of the day. So
you don't have that kind of sentimental thing about the silver screen, big screen.
Cinema is always cinema, especially when you watch something that was an epic film,
like The Message,
like a 5-act film. Like normal films are done in 3 acts, but when you watch a 5-act film,
wow, I didn't know they were.
Wait for
the other two?
72 millimeter. 72 millimeter film. When you watch
Mahmoud's
that,
mouth's watering.
And there's a cinema. There's a couple of cinemas in Hollywood that still do it. And I mean, well, actually, Tarantino brought out a bunch of 72 millimeter format stuff. But there's one in particular called the Egyptian cinema, because the Egyptians in Hollywood had a lot of respect years ago because Egyptian cinema was huge. And I don't know why they stopped, but they just ceased after, I don't know, 1960 or something, 1970. They just sort of
They do a lot of TV dramas. That's the big thing.
But everyone does TV dramas.
Yeah, the Hollywood of the whole Arab world.
Really?
Some people say, yeah.
Yeah, okay, but they were the Hollywood. They were like Egyptian.
So what's a 5-act film? I've never heard of
a 5-act.
A 3-act.
A 5-act film is like, so Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, like David Lean films, but a lot of the epics, old epics, were like in 5 acts. So it just means that the acts are broken up, and the storyline is the journey of the character is a different architect of these 3-act films.
Does it have dancing in it? Okay, I was thinking of something else. Some Bollywood films are like three hours long and probably considered 5-act. But
I think they would be 5-act films. One of those epics that are maybe.
You into any Bollywood cinema?
No.
It's the biggest film industry in the world, I think, apparently. I think that's just because of sheer numbers. Because there's like 3 billion people that...
In India, watching it?
Watching. Not just in India, but all around the world.
Around the world.
And translated and stuff. Well, yeah, it's been good talking to you. I think we need to feed you and get you some good coffee now.
You got to feed
you can try out some. It's always a surprise with me. You try out some local coffees now. There's a very nice independent place here that roasts its own beans. It's called Starbucks. You might have heard of it.
Okay.
It's kind of a quaint indie kind of East London joint. We can go down there now, inshallah. I think it's pronounced that. Jazakumullah khair. Reshad Hamza Strik, not Rashid, aka Claudius, aka Omar, aka Claudius's Blood Brothers Revenge, coming in 2021, inshallah, starring Salman Butt.
As Claudius.
As Claudius's slightly better looking brother. But yeah, Jazakumullah khair for watching at home. If you like this podcast, give it a like and a share. We're on, just a reminder, we're on all the podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, so you can download them there. And yeah, give us a good review, some comments, and we'll see you in the next one. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Unscripted.